Hi guys, welcome back to Journey Teachers. Today we have Lalita with us. Hi Lalita.
Hi Kriti, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. What about you?
I'm doing great too. Thank you so much.
How was your day today? How is the day going?
The day's been really good. Very excited, very productive, very chilled also in some ways. So yeah, it's been a good day. How about yours?
It's going well as of now. We had an off today, so it's a chill working day. Uh,
Wonderful.
how's life going?
Life is going good. Full of things. There's always something to look forward to. There's a lot of magic and a lot of beauty and a lot of things to, in general, just be happy about.
So wonderful. So, guys, many of you don't know Lalita is an ABT practitioner, which is art-based therapy, and we'll be covering a lot of things about that area in today's podcast. So, I'm very excited to go about it. So, let's start with your journey. How has your journey uh, being into this field has been till now?
So my journey in the field, in as an arts-based therapy practitioner, has been nothing short of magical, and also like great learning. And if I like to, just go back a bit and tell you how it all started, so I've always been inclined towards the arts. Art has been my, I think, after food, it has been my second form of sustenance, and it's also been a safe place for me. So when I was younger, there were a lot of days, and many times, I would have to be alone at home because my parents were working, both of them. And just trying to regulate myself. I didn't know about all this then when I was 4, 5, 6 and all that, and I would just turn to art, pick up a coloring book, just start coloring, and I think that just calmed me down. I just felt safe with just those colors and paper and just doing some craft. So I think it's just, maybe it started there, like art started being a part of my life like that. And I think just continued to be a part of my life. And as I grew, I learned art formally for 4 years in my free time. And on the weekends, I would go for training and learned art. And I was also teaching at the same time. And recently, 6 years back, I opened an art school, and which where I was teaching kids. So that way, you can see how art has been formally, informally, in so many ways part of my life. I think I can say that my journey started there, and it's still going on in the practice of arts-based therapy. So, yeah, I think that's also, there was a turning point where I was working for an NGO called White Swan Foundation for Mental Health, and there I was taking the one session on just with for young people, just to get them to do some art activity, just reflect and all that, and a lot of emotions came up for them during that session. And I didn't know how to close it. I didn't know how to close those open wounds at that point in time. And I actually got scared. What have I opened up with a simple art activity? And then my colleagues, who were very supportive and understanding, more senior than I was, they all helped me to close that session. And then I was just thinking, like, does art and mental health, do they meet somewhere? Like, is there a meeting point? And I think that's where I started. Just, I had few sleepless nights thinking about this, like, what is the connection? And then I spoke to my colleagues, and they told me there's a course called arts-based therapy, and why don't you look at it? And I just happened to look at the website of Bapu Trust, Bapu Foundation, and there was a week left, I think, to apply for it. I applied, I quit my job, I studied, and then the pandemic happened, but I've been practicing through and through. So yeah, that's been my journey into becoming an arts-based therapy practitioner.
It's been a long, wholesome journey, as I can see from what you have shared. And what was that incident which actually happened, if you would like to share, so that we can actually understand what made you start this arts-based therapy?
Yeah, so the incident, as I said, where there was a group of youth, and they were learning at a skill center. So they were teaching the NGO that they were associated with. They were teaching them, say, basic computer skills, I think Excel and things like that, like simple skills. And they were from a very marginalized section. And I went with, I went all equipped saying that I'll go and do this art activity. It was called the River of Life. It's a very reflective, beautiful activity. But I never knew, and I didn't even guess for once that it would bring up so much. So some of them, when they were explaining the river that they drew of their life, they started, they broke down, they spoke about suicide, and they spoke about depression, anxiety, violence, and a lot of things which were very painful for them and unresolved. So I think maybe they hadn't even got the chance to speak about it anywhere. So that was maybe the first time they were talking about it, and it happened just with the sketch pens going on paper, and all of this came out.
That's so powerful.
Very powerful, and that's why I had those
I'm
sleepless
already
nights.
getting
Oh
goosebumps hearing
gosh.
this. Oh my god.
Yeah, I felt the same, like when I was there in
Yeah.
that space, and then I just wanted to do something about it. And I also wanted to know, what is there something more, like, that art can do with this is powerful, like you said. And I mean, where does this meet, mental health and art, and how does the recovery happen, or how does the coping happen? So with those questions, I think my journey started. Really, that was the incident that was like a calling to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because people have used art in many forms, maybe, just for relaxation purposes, but to heal those wounds, that's really powerful. And what about, like, have you used your art to heal yourself at any point?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a beautiful point. And yes, I have used art to heal myself. It was very unconsciously done. I didn't know because I was a child, and I would turn to art, just pick up colors and paint. And I wasn't someone who was very outspoken when I was younger. I wasn't very expressive with words. So I think art was that channel for me to heal myself. That was the unconscious part of it. But as I was learning ABT, arts based therapy, I started doing it consciously, because it's also part of the practitioner's self practice, the practitioner's growth, the practitioner achieving clarity and connecting to the self, so that we are able to connect with others as well. So yes, I have used it in healing, but to be honest, I haven't yet had I had the chance to work with an arts based therapy practitioner who, in a formal setting, for my healing.
Right. So, since you are also an ABT practitioner, can you do it for yourself?
I wouldn't do it for myself, but I would take a few, say a few things, maybe a few exercises, few activities, say breath work, or maybe some movement related things, or maybe some visual art activities. I would do it on its own, but I would not be able to design a session for myself and facilitate for myself. Like, maybe I can design it, but
So you need a
yeah,
mentor
you
for
need a
that. Yeah.
third person. You need a next person, like another practitioner, to look at you as from their lens, rather than, because you looking at yourself and practicing on yourself is not very recommended, and not advised in
Right.
general.
Because people, as audience, people might think, that she's an art-based therapist and she can heal herself
Yeah.
by her own, but
Yes.
that isn't the case always.
Yeah.
So what actually goes in an art
Yeah,
session?
yeah. So I'd like to add a bit
Right.
more to your previous question, where about the healing of self. Like I said, I use a few activities, like maybe just intuitive art, intuitive writing, or some movement based things where you use dance or rhythm. So I use them independently, and that definitely assists and helps in my healing. Whatever I need to heal from or process or just let out, I think that way it helps. But if I need to go for a formal session, I would definitely reach out to another person, another arts based therapy practitioner.
Right.
Yeah,
That actually makes sense, and it'll be better for one's own well-being as well.
absolutely. Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
what all goes in an ABT session?
So an ABT session is a lot of preparation is required. So the first thing is, as a practitioner, I have my self practice, which I do every day. Like every day, I practice breath work. I practice just setting intentions like compassion, and that things go well, or even contemplating on certain things. Maybe sometimes it's not possible to do all of it every day, But as and when it happens, I pick up on those things, and I try to make it a daily practice. And I also do engage in a lot of voice work, where we, as arts-based therapy practitioners, we are required, and we generally do this voice work, where we have a lot of voice exercises which we use for individuals and groups, and that goes into the self practice, so that when you're facilitating a session, when you're in that place, you can enable the other people also to, the individuals or the groups, to also be part of it, to respond and open up. So that is one part of the self practice. And that goes into the session, so before every session, we have our daily practice, we have certain rituals that we need to do, and only then can we actually go and facilitate a session. So there are all those ground rules, we have certain ethics that we need to follow. So that is the first step. And the second step is, whoever the person is, the individual is that I'm going to be working with, I go and assess them. So we have like a number of assessment tests. We have the mandala assessment, we have body mapping, where you actually lie down on a large sheet of paper, so there's a life size body map of yours, and then you map out your emotions, your feelings, your pain, or your good feelings, all of it on that body map through symbols and colors. And it's a beautiful process to just stay in tune to how you're feeling mentally and physically at that point in time. So that is one assessment tool. And we also create our own tools. So there are several tools already in our toolkit, and we have our own, like certain things, like if I have to measure rhythm, so I create my own assessment sheet, and measure rhythm and how they respond to certain sounds, all of that. So once the assessment is done, it usually takes an hour and a half. After that, I take the assessment results. I take inferences. I also, take notes from the session, and then make a note of what are the goals that I need to set. What are the areas of need for this person or this group, and make a note of those areas of needs, and then design a session based on those areas of needs.
Wow, so it's all customized as per the
Yes,
needs and everything.
absolutely. So one thing about ABT is it's very inclusive. It takes into account intersectionalities. It takes into account multiple needs of diverse groups, and it's a very beautiful practice. Because one of the thing is, we don't label anyone or anything. That is one very important thing. And yeah, I think it's just need based and goal based, setting goals. So we work in a very empathetic manner and very compassionate. It's a safe approach. So yeah, it's completely customized.
Who is it for? Children, elders, young people?
It's
Everyone.
for everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Again, when I say everyone, I would also like to point out, and as a disclaimer, say that not all therapies may suit every person, but if you try it out and you feel it resonates with you or it's helping you, I think you can always go ahead with it, as it goes for any other method of healing or therapy.
So, in a body mapping, as you said, so what is it? The person actually lies down on the floor on a sheet of paper, do the
Yeah.
outline of the
Yes.
person's body and then point out the emotions based on that.
Yeah.
Is that
So
really helpful?
it is because we get to know, as in, first, it starts with a meditative practice, a breathwork practice, where you actually relax your entire body. You just completely relax every part, part by part, and then you just feel everything that you're feeling in every part of your body, because sometimes we don't know what we're feeling in a certain part. We may not be aware of certain body parts. We may not be aware of what we are feeling somewhere. We might be numbed out, or maybe we're feeling very relaxed somewhere. So we just to bring your attention to those things and see if where are the deep rooted issues happening, or what could be holding you somewhere. So those are, I think, some things that come up in the body map. A lot of things. Some things may be momentary. Some things might be long term, held in your body. And also, when we talk about trauma, there's a lot of trauma work that I do. We hold memories. We store memories in our bodies. So that is something that the arts-based therapy practice helps a lot in releasing trauma and in also coping with the after effects of trauma. So body mapping is an excellent tool, but we don't generally, like, sometimes we do it as an assessment, sometimes we do it maybe looking at who we are working with. if it might be too intense for the person, we will not choose the body mapping in the initial stages. We'll choose it in the later stages because
Right.
it might be too much to connect with one's body for some people. So again, it's all very based on who the person is, what their needs are, how much can they handle at a point in time.
So how long are these sessions? Is it for like one person at a time, or do they do it in a group practice?
Yeah, so general practice, the sessions are for 45 minutes uh, to 1 hour, but sometimes it can extend to 90 minutes, so 1.5 hours. But again, it depends on who the child. If it's a child, very young child, and they may not be able to, stay for 1 hour, we customize it to 45 minutes. Again, they do because the arts are so beautiful and engaging. Mostly the children stay for 45 minutes or beyond, and just it's just beautiful, like the way they transform themselves. It's a great catalyst for change and meeting one's goals.
Have you seen anyone crying during an EVT session?
Yeah, I have, because a lot of emotions get released, processed, and yeah, there have been kids crying. One incident which I remember, which I think was my first ABT assessment session, there was this child at an orphanage. It was an orphanage for boys, and he was found on the streets, I think near a marketplace somewhere. And he and his brother were in the orphanage. And this boy, he had not spoken at all for 6 months. He was at the orphanage for 6 months and hadn't spoken a single word, no eye contact, nothing. And he was always closed up, like in a womb like position. And that was, everyone had given up, or the caregivers, everyone at the orphanage had given up that, nothing can be done with this child. We've tried everything. And so he came, he actually sat during the assessment, and there were 15 boys, and he picked, and he refused to look at me. But I still kept the paper in front of him. I kept some colors and pencil, and I just, in between the session, I would go and nudge him. Why don't you pick up the pencil? Why don't you just draw something? And he just did not. He didn't even look at me. He was that closed out, so severe trauma, and he was just hugging himself the whole time. So I, at one point, I actually went and put the pencil in his hand, and I said, just try, and then I just went away. And at the end of it, I saw one little scratch on the paper. So that was beautiful. That was a huge thing. That little scratch on the paper was like a huge, huge thing, that he actually lifted the pencil and made a mark there. So that was it in that whole session. That was the only thing this boy did. And you won't believe the transformation happened so quickly in this child, that he would just come and just be present in the session. And the fourth session, he started moving. He actually looked at me and started moving. And that was just so precious. And later, as the sessions progressed, he started voicing out. He started participating in theater, and he was the loudest voice, I can say. So that was like something that I'll just keep hold in my heart. And now he's part of school dramatics, and he's doing excellently well.
That's life changing.
It is absolutely life changing, yeah, Kriti. So you can imagine. I think I'll be the one crying in the sessions rather than the kids. So yeah, it's been very I don't know, magical, I think is the word.
It is. It is. I think you guys are not doing anything less than the doctors, of course.
Yeah, I think in some ways, yes. Some things, of course, we can't. The doctors need to do their work, but yeah, some of it definitely, as therapists, maybe changes lives for the better,
Right.
or saves lives, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So true. So is it only for, because what are the elements? Is it only like pen and paper drawing, and as you said, body mapping is there, some voice overs are there. So what all things goes in the session?
Yeah, very good question. So when we say the arts, generally what people think of is maybe
Just
visual
drawing,
art. Yeah,
pen,
usually
paper.
we think of visual arts or some clay work or something like that.
Right.
But this, when we say arts based, right? So it's all the art forms. Every art form you can think of is part of the therapy
Singing,
practice.
dancing, everything.
Singing, dancing, movement. There's rhythm. We have all the percussion instruments. We have like whole dance group. It's just beautiful. And then we have poetry, we have all kinds of visual art, like whether it's clay work or whether it's you know throwing ink, or with this blowing something on the with the straw, and story making. There's theater, and there's breath work, and there's, I don't know, there's just like everything. All the art forms you can ever think of can all be part of arts-based therapy. And the how we how this happens is, it all comes together in a very structured manner, and it's kind of, it has a, the structure is like, basically you have a ritual, you have a warm up, and then you have like a main section of the therapy session itself where you address the main goal, and then you have like de-rolling, where you actually dust off, you physically remove, dust off those things, emotions that you're carrying, and you let it go. So that process is also very, very relaxing, very relieving and healing. And then you have the closing, which is also like a, a ritualistic practice, where you, whether you thank people, or you wish well for others, or you make wishes for yourself, or you say some affirmations, or you do something fun. So there's always this opening, and then delving deep, processing, and there's a, letting go, and then there's closing. So every session is designed like this. And I think, yeah, I think it's just something necessary to open something and also close something, and then let some things carry on for later.
So, in the ABT session, what I've understood till now is people practice arts, and so as a therapist, what is your role? Do you guide them to, just start doing art, or do you counsel them as well accordingly to connect with their emotions? How does that process work?
Right. So here in this process, it's very less talking. The lesser the words, the better. So the instructions are very clear. Suppose I say, if I'm initiating a breath work practice, so then I give those minimal instructions, like take a deep breath, imagine you're breathing in, say, light blue inside, filling up your body, and then releasing, say, brown or black or gray, something else, and just letting it all out. So those are the simple instructions. And then we also have, even for body mapping or for the rhythm, it's just, we just tell, play this rhythm, and then they play that particular rhythm if they can, if they're able to, and then it just continues that way, so the instructions are simple all the time, and there's a lot of fun element that we add. So every session is fun mandatorily. And we don't talk much, to be honest. We maybe ask a certain like number of questions after they create something, or after they perform, not perform, after they maybe engage in an activity which is theater based, if it's a group, for instance. So yeah, I think that's how I go about it.
Right. So there's always a fun element, and people
Yeah,
can actually
yeah,
uh,
yes,
be kept engaged.
yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, it's also safe, very safe.
Very safe. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So let's come back to your journey, since you were a lot into arts in childhood. So why did you not decide to become an artist, and instead of that become a arts-based therapist?
Yeah, I think I'm also an artist in some ways. Maybe I haven't yet had a show in a gallery, but I do paint, I do, illustrate, I do all of that. Uh, but arts based therapy, since it was like a calling, it's like something that I felt like I have to do in my life. It must be done, because I felt like this is something I can help a lot of people with. And maybe also heal myself from whatever, like ongoing or past stuff or anything. So I think it's just felt like the right thing to do for me. Nothing had felt so right as this had felt.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's magical in itself.
it is. It is. Yeah.
What is the major difference, I would like to know, in an artist and an arts-based therapist? What do you see?
Yeah, right. So an artist would paint for the sake of art, for the sake of a career, maybe, also for the sake of expression, and just to connect with oneself and the world, and to make sense of the world, right? Like even art is generally making sense of things, or putting it down on paper. But when you talk about an arts-based therapy practitioner, it's a different approach altogether to art. So here we don't focus on the techniques in arts-based therapy. The techniques don't really matter. It's the processing. We don't teach the techniques at all, but we help in the processing. So all the arts are just tools in arts-based therapy. They are tools to help you heal, to meet your goals, to meet your mental health goals, or your psychosocial needs, or your physical health goals also, like when you're working with people with chronic illness, for instance, or long-term mental health issues, all of that.
Right. So how did you, is it a stable thing, and how did you, made yourself qualified enough maybe to practice this?
Right. So, in terms of qualification, I would say that there's multiple people who have done different things can qualify to study arts-based therapy. So, some of them who have done their masters in psychology can go ahead and study this later, but it needs a minimum of 2 years at least of work experience in the development sector or the NGO space, social impact space, for instance, or the caregiving space. And if you've been a long term caregiver for somebody with a mental health issue, or for someone with any health related stuff or disability, you can also qualify to take up the course and study it, because you know what the problems are. So, yeah. So, there's multiple people, even artists who have been practicing art for a long time can qualify for it, provided they have a bachelor's or a master's degree.
And then you can start your individual practice.
And then you can, yeah. So the course itself is pretty rigorous. It is a 1 year course, but it feels like a 2 year course packed in one. It could easily be a master's course. And so the practice is for 9 months almost. I think the intensity, it's intense, weekly, to 2 hours every week of sessions that we do for a large group of up to 15 people. Some of us have worked with groups as large as 20 during our study of arts-based therapy, and I would say that it's extremely rigorous, and it totally transforms you as a person, provided you do it in a dedicated manner. And there's a lot of study, there's a lot of homework, and there's a lot of self-reflection, self-work that one needs to do to be able to actually help others.
So is it what you are doing full time, or does it require another stable source of income, and then you can shift to
Yeah.
an EBT practitioner? How does that work?
Very good question, Kriti. So I know a lot of people might be thinking about,
Right.
taking the course, and this actually is a very good question, and maybe coming up in their minds as well. So for some people, I think, speaking, looking at the overview of arts-based therapy and people practicing it, some of them have taken it up full time. If they're working in a clinical setting, say a hospital, or maybe some institute or an NGO which works with women, so they can work full time for these sessions. And then for me, for instance, I had my own practice. So again, I wouldn't say full time, because you won't be getting sessions every day. Or maybe if I was more forthcoming, I might have got everyday sessions, but again, I wouldn't be taking sessions every day. So I was working on other work. I was taking up other work along with this. So that's how I started my practice. So I was consulting at other places for writing work, or creating curriculums, that kind of work, and also doing this. And
Right.
yeah,
Do you plan to make it full time?
maybe in the future, but not right now. But it is definitely a part of my life. It's part of my work.
Yeah.
And I do advocate for mental health. I do advocate for arts-based therapy, and I've been practicing it quite regularly for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So
That's actually what is giving you satisfaction,
yes.
what I can, actually
Yeah,
observe.
yeah. It is. It's because just seeing how people receive it and what changes they go through, it's pretty amazing. And now with COVID that came up, and
Yeah.
we all have moved to the online medium. I think I have found that arts-based therapy can reach people beyond borders, beyond our city, beyond geography. So just that having a phone or a tab, or say a computer, can also help you take these sessions
Hmm.
online.
So, since people, for example, I decide today that I have to go to a therapist or maybe a
Yeah.
counselor. So, do those people also use arts-based therapy, or is it only for those specialized practitioners who can, use that?
So, yeah, the requirement is that you need to have studied arts based therapy
Right,
and have the certification to be certified as an arts based therapy practitioner. And only then can you call yourself an ABT practitioner or practice it. But if you do not have that qualification, I don't think so. Because the course is very rigorous and
right,
intense, and there's so much self work, which is called the SEG. It's called the Subtle Energy Guide, which is a whole huge booklet, which talks about therapist self practice. So we have to, we spend a whole year just practicing on ourselves and others. So I think that is the missing element if you look at other practices. So that's why I wouldn't advise arts based therapy to be uh, taken up by other practitioners unless they also study the course. And some of them, I think, they do take up some activities from the arts based therapy manual, and they might practice it. If they're maybe a CBT practitioner, they might need to work with kids or with older people or someone with chronic illness, or any group, for instance, that may need something different from talk therapy or something else. So I think then I've seen a few people adapting it into their sessions, but I wouldn't call it arts based therapy. It would just be like one insert, but it wouldn't be arts based therapy.
So, what is it for the people to make a choice of? Because since ABT is not, people aren't aware about it, I feel. So, what
Yes.
is it that if people are given a choice to, given a choice to make out, choose between a talk therapy and an ABT based therapy? So, what would they decide? Something which they're facing in their life, what can be
Yeah.
solved through an ABT or a talk therapy?
Right. Okay. That's a very deep question. Again, people's choice, again, it depends on how aware they are of what is available out there. So, the most commonly available thing is talk therapy, which is
Right.
CBT. And for instance, for kids, I get a lot of calls from parents, schools, colleges, young people who want this therapy because they feel like maybe they don't want to talk about things, or maybe they're not able to associate, to really understand what's happening within. Like children may not have certain words for certain things, or older people may
Right.
not want to just talk about anything. They just, maybe they're exhausted. So it again depends on individuals. I'm not generalizing, but
Right.
again, specific individuals. So I'm just giving instances, and depending on that, I think people make a choice. And again, we as arts-based therapy practitioners, we are advocating for this. We are working with different spaces. Different people are working with different spaces to say that there is something like this that exists. And you yourself calling me here is another step towards that advocacy, and saying that we are out here. You can reach out to us. So it's for everyone, I would say, right from the age of 2 or 3 to the age of 100, or whoever is the oldest, I think can benefit from it, provided they're okay with the arts and they want to try it out. And yeah, I think anything. But
Yeah.
I also feel like until one tries a form of therapy, they don't really know whether it's going to work for them or not. And even I can't say until somebody's come to me and we've had a session together, we still don't know how it's going to be.
Have you faced any biasness in maybe, in some ways that people say, I don't want to just draw something, and, how will my emotions come out just by drawing? Because this is the common, I
Yeah.
think, thinking which people might
Yes,
have.
yes. I'm loving your questions, Kriti. So, yeah, I have met a few people, like older clients who have come to me in their 30s and maybe in their 40s, and they have said that I have never, held colors in like
Yeah.
ages, and, I haven't moved my body like this, or I haven't held a drum in my hand. I don't know, like this is
Yeah.
scary for me. So, it's also, as a practitioner, it's my job. It's also my, you know, just my step to take to make sure that they feel safe enough to open up. So the warm up exercises help a lot in opening up. Just also creating that safety, right, when you're with the person or with the group. how much they are able to take that risk to open up or to try something new. So there's a lot of creative risk taking that happens, and we slowly open up and unpack. So there have been instances in the initial stages when they are afraid to hold a pencil, or they are afraid to like dance to a tune, or they
Mhm.
just refuse to pick up a drum, or they just want to step out. So we also give them that space. You, if you don't want to do this, we can try something else. So if they want to take time and step out, we give them that time. You can step out, catch your breath, come back, or you just sit there and relax. Or you don't do anything, you don't want to do anything, you're not able to do anything, just don't do anything. Even that itself can be healing sometimes. But just to understand what the people or the person needs, I think that's important. And why we have all the art forms, right? We have so many tools because people might pick up one of those tools. If not a brush or a pen, maybe they might pick up a drum, or maybe
Hmm.
they might want to do theater and they pick up some props and they start impromptu acting. So again, it really depends on how equipped the practitioner is also to navigate these things.
So, are you currently having a space with all these equipments and resources available, or how to carry it online as well?
Yeah, so I didn't ever formally have my own space, but I would collaborate with other
Right.
practitioners where I would rent spaces for those hours, or I would go to other schools and maybe schools for children with special needs, or orphanages. So I would keep my equipment there for that period of time, and they would give me the space for it, or I would just take carry my equipment each time that I go there. So if it's a group session, I would have like a whole bag of drums, I would have percussion instruments, I would have theater props, I would have one whole kit of art
And then
material.
they can choose
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it's all
Right.
put there. It's all put there, and people can just pick and choose. And we always carry an abundance of material so that there is enough for everybody, and there is freedom for choice, and just no restrictions. And it's a very non-coercive approach, if I may add. We don't force anyone to pick up this or do this or
Hmm.
do that,
It's all
but
available.
it's
It's kind.
there.
Yeah.
And if there is somebody who's uncomfortable to say, to put up, like to wear a prop and then to step in, we just let them be, and maybe the
Hmm.
next time they might come and pick up something. We usually see gradual transitions. Sometimes it's immediate, but sometimes it takes time. So again, it's each person's journey, and that also teaches me a lot, like journey
Yeah.
teaches.
That
Yeah.
actually makes sense. So, when we are in a group setting practicing this, so are people, afraid of the audience? Maybe fear of judgment. What others will think if I play drum randomly. I don't know how to play drum, or
Yeah.
maybe I make a very bad drawing. Will people make fun of
Yeah,
me?
yeah, that's
So.
a very valid point. And of course, we are all being judged all the time.
Hmm.
Like, we rarely find spaces where we are not judged or where we don't feel safe. Again, it's our thing, as a practitioner, to ensure that safety. So it's also our duty to look at everybody and see who's feeling uncomfortable, who's not okay, what is that point, what is happening that is making them uncomfortable, and to go and address it immediately. Like, go there and maybe talk to the person, ask what's happening, just see what else can be done. And if somebody makes fun of another person's drawing, or laughing at the movement or
Hmm.
anything, if
Hmm.
it's very derogatory, of course we intervene, and then we try to break it immediately, and then we intervene immediately. So it's not like screaming at the other person. There's none of that happens. But in our own way, we handle it very tactically, very sensitively. So that's what I would say.
Right, to make them feel
Yeah,
comfortable and
yeah,
make sure their emotions come out.
yeah. Especially when there's no sense of belongingness in a group. It's our duty to bring everyone together. So if somebody is laughing at another person or demeaning them, I wouldn't go and laugh, giving them company with that. I
Hmm.
wouldn't. I would just be there, and I would just hold that space. I would just ask what's happening here, or just let's move on from here. Are you okay? So that way.
Have you faced any such situation in which one person, came from a talk therapy from the CBT and came to ABT, which made them feel more impacted? If you could share some story.
CBT to ABT. Yeah, yeah. Actually, there was this young boy. who was in college, and he was, I think, studying law, and in his first, no, his final year, and he was struggling with ADHD. Was just diagnosed, and he felt, nothing helped him. Talk therapy didn't help. Medication didn't help, and then he came here, and it was just a few sessions, and then he just felt a sense of direction, and he realized that he needs to take up sports, like he needs to take up martial arts, which is his passion, and just making that decision to do that just helped him set a routine, and just to unpack that in the sessions, to know what he needs to take up or what he needs to do, how does he go about his life. I think that was enough for him. It was just those few sessions, and I think that helped a lot. So yeah, there have been some instances like that where people have benefited from arts-based therapy, where they didn't benefit from talk therapy. But again, I wouldn't say one is better than the other. I would never say that, because
Yeah.
it isn't the case. What works for some people, like again, that boy tried a lot. Like he tried different things, and then he felt this works for him. So I guess it takes a few tries for some people, but for some people, maybe the first try would be the right one. And yeah, and then there's also been one instance that I can recall where this girl in her 30s had come for a session, and she was struggling with art. She didn't want to. She wanted to be part of the session, but she only had to verbalize everything. She was only verbalizing. So it took a few tries, and I had to give her a percussion instrument and say, instead of speaking out, why don't you make the sounds? Do it in sound, do it in rhythm. So then we got into the session, and then we kind of moved from the talking to the art making, or the arts based therapy practice.
Right. So it's very subjective for everyone
Very
to choose.
subjective, and it's a non-judgmental space, and
Right.
it's also something you need to think on your feet. How much ever you prepare the previous day, you read the, you take the background of the person and everything, you still on the go, you still have to just ascertain at that point what they need, what needs to be done, how you can help them.
Have you, came across maybe bigger or smaller artists themselves taking ABT sessions?
Artists, no, I haven't yet, but maybe in the future. But I have heard of my colleagues who have worked with artists who have taken arts-based therapy, and it's been a struggle for them to distinguish between art making, the
Oh.
technique, and the processing of it.
Right.
So it is initially a struggle. Then once that breaks, it's all right.
I think that's an interesting aspect that
Yes,
the artists can also look for themselves.
yes, yes.
Like, what is their art and what is the kind of process through which their emotions can come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how does it feel if people share their transformation journey with you and you see them, going through a huge transformation? How does it feel for you on your personal level?
It feels so good. I just feel like, first I feel like, oh my god, how did this happen? I myself am always in awe of the changes that our ABT brings, and I still can't make sense of it. Like, how did this happen to this level with just the art activities? And when parents call me and they keep sharing ongoing, that this is happening, this is another goal we met, it's just very rewarding. It's fulfilling, and I feel like I'm doing what I need to do, and I feel like I need to do more of this, and I feel like maybe I'm doing something right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
what this conversation also went about. So thank you so much, Lalita, for sharing, your experience, your valuable insights into ABT and how does the process work. This is something, people aren't much aware about, and I feel like this was a very important video for us to make together. Any last thoughts or anything you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I would just like to say, take care of your mental health, your physical health. Look out for signs. Uh, just enjoy what you do, and stay connected with yourself and your surroundings. And I think that's basically it.
And
Yeah.
don't be afraid of taking therapy. I think that's
Yeah, don't
reach
be
out,
afraid to
reach
reach
out to.
out to help,
Yeah.
whether it's an ABT practitioner, whether it's a CBT practitioner, whether it's a healthcare worker, anybody. Just you need help in a certain area, please reach out, and don't be afraid.
Right. Thank you so much for coming here. And I think your journey has been really inspirational. And what you do to transform others' life is also very inspiring for me as well. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kriti. This was lovely. And I wish you all the best for your podcast and for your journey as well.
Thanks. Thank you.